Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go, go. Hope you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 hope you can still go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They're deceived with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why they say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
What's up, everybody? I hope y'all can hear me. I had an issue with my sound. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the Real Greg Kelly Show. Shout out to the chat. I see y'all. Seeing Brooke. What's up, sis? Nick, what's going on? Fetty is in the house. We got the great one. Live Freedom. The man himself. For everybody else, man, salute. Again, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm barely hearing myself, but that may be a good thing. But anyway, welcome to the show tonight. We are going to get into some very, very interesting material. I had somebody call me up and kind of blast at me like, you know, I see what you're doing on YouTube. I hear what you're saying. But how do you know for a fact that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, how do you know they're communist? Well, it's kind of simple. They're communist. So I gave an analogy. It's football season, so we're going to use a football analogy for anybody that played football. I know I got some football players. Oh, yeah, shout out to Texan, man. Good to see you, brother. Fetty, what is up, baby? Thanks for being here. I'm going to jump on Fetty's live after this. Make sure y'all go over there and show the brother some love. But let's get back to this football analogy. When you play football, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. When you play football and you prepare for, you know, your opponent, certain formations and certain transitions in that offense, if you're prepared, the captain of that defense would say, okay, they're running X, Y, and Z. They're going to run this play. How do we know? Because we're looking at it form, even if they try to use some smoke and mirrors, based off the formation, we're already prepared for this. So we know. So in other words, they see it. We see it. We see it. That's how I know that these guys and gals are communists. So tonight, I'm going to show you 2 videos, 2 clips. I want you to pay attention to both of them because, man, they nail it down. The first clip is going to be connected to why are we seeing the open border and why is there nothing being done about it? Well, the open border is one of their main plays in their playbook. I'm not even going to try to explain it. The gentleman that's on this video, he explains it perfectly. I hunted it down. It's beautiful. He shows you exactly what's happening and he tells you why it's happening. And I'm saying, for my family, don't be deceived. Anybody that's in here that does not know what the Communist Manifesto looks like, not the book, but how it manifests, you're going to see a formation. You're going to see the motion of wide receivers, politicians. You're going to hear the cadence of the quarterback, Joe Biden, and they're going to tell you exactly what they're doing. This is going to be good. It's going to be short because we got to get out of here. We got to make sure that the airwaves are clear for Fetty. He's going to go live. Hopefully y'all be able to go over there and chill and relax and just eat up what Fetty's giving. And again, I want to give a shout out to everybody. Don't forget, tomorrow at 7:00 Eastern time, Fascism in America Part 2. I will have the Angry Snowman as a co-host. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Again, this is just a series of videos, a series of streams that are designed to connect pieces of the puzzle so the full picture can be seen. So when you have encounters with people that would call you crazy and call you an extremist and call you ultra MAGA Trump supporter, you will actually have the opportunity to see. I have no idea why my camera's not on. Like, what did I do? Yeah, okay. Ha! There I am. I was talking. I'm like, where am I? What happened? But anyway, let's get into clip 1. All right, clip 1. I need to remove this. Bring in my other window here. Forgive me, guys. Again, I'm not going to do a lot of talking on this. It's going to be real quick, real short and sweet, but powerful. Make sure you like this. Make sure you share. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. I really appreciate it. I mean, we are getting ready to do something explosive. I feel it. I know Fetty feels it. I know the creators that are in this family, I know they feel it. Like, we're really going to do something powerful here, something real, real serious. So yeah, this is going to be the coming weeks are going to be real powerful. Shout out to AC. He's not with us right now. Want to give him a shout out. That's my brother. You're going to enjoy this. All right, so here we go. Let me set this up. All right, here we go, man. Listen to this. Pay attention. This is really, really good information. Why did that happen? I'm going to go here. There we go. All right, check this out, guys.
So this is an orchestrated communist assault on America to destroy America's borders, to create confusion in America, to overwhelm the system politically, because America is the main enemy. And if you can't bring it down through nuclear weapons, you bring it down through illegal.
All right, so I think I have an echo here. Let me fix that. I do believe All right, let's see what we got. Yeah. Hopefully this works. All right, let's try this now.
Immigration, which is maybe just as effective in the long run. You can see what 15, 16, 20, 25 million new Democratic voters is going to do to this country. You'll lose Texas, you'll lose Florida, you'll lose Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina.
Okay, we have an echo. I have no idea why. Let me do this. I have no idea why we're having an echo here. Bam, bam, bam. Should be no echoing. None whatsoever. All right, let's try this. All right, pardon me, guys. I have no idea why I have an echo. Let me stop sharing. This is retarded. Let's see. Yeah. Let's do it this way. Share this screen. This should kill it, hopefully.
There will never be, ever, another Republican or Conservative president in our lifetimes. You will have a one-party state in America, and that is the plan. That is why they are doing this.
Still echoing?
So this is an orchestrated communist assault on America to destroy America's borders, to create confusion in America, to overwhelm the system politically, because America's the main enemy. And if you can't bring it down through nuclear weapons, you bring it down through illegal immigration, which is maybe just as effective in the long run. You can see what 15, 16, 20, 25 million new Democratic voters is going to do to this country. You'll lose Texas, you'll lose Florida, you'll lose Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina. There will never be, ever, another Republican or Conservative president in our lifetimes. You will have a one-party state in America, and that is the plan. That is why they are doing this. And this is Marxist, this is Leninist, and this goes back to American politicians cooperating with hostile foreign powers in the destruction of America. And the number one weapon is illegal immigration and overwhelming the border. That's what they're doing. If that's not a national emergency, I cannot comprehend what is. What could be more pressing and more dangerous than this? The Democrats 25 years ago, they were the party leading the charge against illegal immigration. They were the party. You look up on C-SPAN and see speeches by Harry Reid and Bill Clinton condemning illegal immigration in the harshest terms. This is a national security threat. This is taking the jobs of American workers. This is destroying their livelihood. We must end this. They sounded like Tea Party guys. And now they're completely in favor of it because they've so destroyed their own base amongst the sort of Pennsylvania union guys, the middle class in this country. They've so destroyed their own base, they have to import new voters. And where are they going to come from? It was a very easy source for that. The borders would be dissolved effectively. There would be no effective border security. And all the Democrat candidates are united on this. All of them, not one of them has made a stand against what is happening on the border. They're all for amnesty. They're all for welcoming, illegals over the border. So you would see the end of America as we know it, because we would get so many million people coming over. They would be given citizenship and voting rights, and they would vote for the party that let them in. Ultimately, these guys, they want power. These Democrat leaders, they're going to live in gated communities. They're going to be living high off the fat of the land. all the rest of us will be living in poverty and destitution. That's okay. Every communist dictator lives in prosperity. Every communist dictator has all the luxuries they want. They don't care what happens to us. We're just expendable to them. And so they have the same mentality. They want power at any cost. They know illegal immigration is hurting American workers. They know it's taking jobs from young black kids in black communities. They know it's bringing disease and public health dangers. They know the open borders are killing 60,000 Americans a year through the importation of fentanyl from China and cocaine and heroin from South America. They know all that, but they're still willing to go along with it because power comes first. And this is the road to absolute power for them. MIT says there's 22 million illegals in the country now. And we all know on present patterns they will vote 80% Democrat at least. Well, that gives the Democrats 15 or 16 million votes just straight off the top. And when you consider that Mitt Romney lost his election by 2.5 million votes and Donald Trump won by 200,000 thanks to the Electoral College and actually lost the popular vote by 3 million, make it clear, America was never a democracy. It was a constitutional republic where the will of the majority was tempered by things like the Electoral College to make sure big population centres did not dominate small population centres. So the left wants to get rid of that. They want to flood the system with illegals. They want to basically undermine the electoral system so that they rule forever. And as Stalin famously said, it's not who votes that counts, it's who counts the votes that counts. So if they're in control of the voting process, they're in control of counting the votes and apportioning out electoral districts, they get rid of the national popular vote. No matter how unpopular they become, no matter how cruel they are, how corrupt they are, and how much the economy crashes, they can never be voted out of power. They will have a permanent blank check on power in this country. And even a die-hard Democrat should be terrified of that situation. To give one party a monopoly on this country. I don't care if it's the best political party in the world. You give them a complete monopoly on power for all time, that is a recipe for corruption and tyranny. Because all power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't care if you had St. Peter leading the party. Wouldn't matter. You have a monopoly on power, you become corrupt. And everybody in this country should be terrified of that prospect. You got a whole voting base who has no comprehension of the consequences of what they're doing. They still think they're voting for Harry Truman and JFK. They don't see that this is an either-or situation. That the Democrats are on the verge of an unbeatable permanent majority. This is a race against time. What's it going to be, 1 million this year? 1.5, 2 million next year? We saw 1 million Muslims driven into Germany recently with all of the social consequences that entailed. Well, the pool of potential refugees from Latin America is way bigger than the people who come out of Syria. Well, how many people live below the border? You're talking a couple of 100 million in Latin America. You could have 3, 4, 5 million people trying to get it. I think President Trump is hoping it'll slow down, but if it's not, I think he's going to have to be tough on Mexico. Until he can get control of the US House again, I don't see how he's going to stop this. But he has to. So I would, if I was the president, what I would do, I would say to the president of Mexico, if you do not stop this flow, and the president of Mexico is a Marxist, AMLO, we will shut down trade. We will shut down everything. Because this is an act of war. It may come to the point where he just has to bite the bullet and say the border is sealed. But even that's not going to stop the problem entirely, because people will still claim refugee status under existing law. So I think the answer must be to put huge pressure on Mexico to stop the problem internally, because they could do it if they wanted to. And by not doing it, they're basically declaring war on the United States. And that needs some tough measures. This whole move for illegal immigration, amnesty, dissolving the border, goes right back to the Soviet days, you know, when the Communist Party USA was working on the border to bring people across, to train up the sort of amnesty movement people. I'm talking, back in the 70s or even before that. And so, with people like Bert Corona, the famous Communist Party member from California, who was heavily involved in this, and he had a whole network across the southern border states of Communist Party members and radicals who were fostering this movement. Because it was designed, there's two aspects of it. One was to fill the southern states with Mexicans and Latin Americans to eventually wrest the southern states back from Mexico, and also to increase the Democratic Party rolls. And so Corona was working with people like, I've got a letter from the 70s asking for Corona and Cesar Chavez and others in this network to find promising young Chicano activists to send to Moscow to train at Patrice Lumumba School, the big training school for foreign communists, to teach them about revolution through promoting Aztlan, the return of the southern states to Mexico. So this is old, and now it's being supported by Sin Fronteras out of Chicago, which is run by the Lozano family, which is they're running a lot of this support networks for the people jumping the border. And they're a Communist Party family, pro-Soviet Communist Party family since a long time back. And then you've got Acorn working down in Honduras, and they worked on voter registration all over the states. But now they are, I believe, also driving the caravans up. I've been told stories about this, but nothing I can prove that the Cubans are also involved in this, and the left-wing forces in Honduras as well.
Look at that big guy. Dang it. Woo, he's huge, man. We ain't gonna keep looking at that guy. He was huge. So you see, open borders, it's bigger than what we can imagine it is when you look at the numbers, and then you look at why the numbers are important. They're important for voting reasons. And I hope the young lady that called me today that asked the question, I hope you're listening. I hope you watch that. Open borders is a declaration of war. Because when your borders are open and you have an influx of people coming into your country, and there's one particular party telling them to come, they're by default obligated to vote for the party that allowed them to come into this country and experience a new life. A brand new life. If you were a bum on the street and I gave you $1 million and I said, hey, here's this $1 million. When it's time to vote, remember that it was me who brought you out of poverty. This is the play. And I know it sounds ludicrous, but it's not. It's actually written in their own white papers. And I told a young lady today, you should probably read some of the white papers of the Communist Party, and it will give you clear, distinct insight into exactly what they intend to do with an open border. we have a lot on our hands right now. We have a ton on our hands. And there's nothing that we can do about that border until somebody comes into power and closes it. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. Wow. I mean, this is just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. So this next clip I'm going to show is really going to be one of the best speeches I've ever heard on the floor of the House. Senior Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, of all people. When I tell you he addresses Build Back Better, he addresses the catastrophe of Afghanistan, he addresses the issues that President Joe Biden refuses to respond to. We know they love open borders, but there's a reason why we looked at it. They love inflation. This is also a part of their playbook. Every communist leader that has ever been in power inflated the economy because it ultimately puts the people on their knees and it lifts up the dictator, and the dictator promises to make things better. And the people cheer, and the people, they salute and they hail the great leader. And it's almost like they can't even see that they're being brought into even deeper and deeper destitution. They don't even, can you imagine what the people in Cuba were saying and how they would chant Castro's name? They would come out in droves to see this guy, and he was flushing them down the toilet. We're watching the same thing happen right now because the common people, just like you and I, on the other side of the aisle, they love Joe Biden. They love Kamala Harris. They love the squad. They love Mitch. What's his name? Mitch McConnell. Is it Mitch McConnell? These guys. There's so many of them. I don't forget them, but they love them at their own demise. It's man. I don't even know what to say because it's like you have to be a fool not to be able to see that this country just 2 years ago was on a rise, and now we're getting drugged through the mud. And these people are like, "Yay, Joe Biden! Yay, Joe Biden! Screw Donald Trump!" I don't have any words for it. But anyway, I'm gonna play this clip. And again, I'm not going to interrupt the clip. I'm just going to let it play all the way through. Okay. And then at the end of this, if anybody wants to come up and talk about what they saw, I'm going to put the link in the chat. Anybody is free to come up. Anybody is free to come up. Link is in the chat. Link is in the chat. This is Kevin McCarthy at the House on the floor, and I'm telling you, he gives it to Joe Biden and the extreme left. He gives it to him. Oh my God, he gives it to him, and he tells them all about the border. He tells them all about inflation. He tells them all about socialized everything. He tells them all about segregation, because that's what they're trying to do to us right now. They're trying to segregate us so they can take full advantage of the segregation. They hate sovereignty. He talks about it. And they hate a flourishing economy. He talks about it. Watch Kevin McCarthy give these people the business on the floor at the House. This is epic. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. I promise you, you will want to share this. You will want to watch this over and over because he gives them the business. Anybody want to come and have a discussion? I'll create the panel. The link's in the chat. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. Salute to all the Americans in the chat. I can't talk to you right now. I will. I promise. As soon as this is over. Kevin McCarthy. Whew, epic. This was last year, I believe. And a ton of people didn't even know this happened. And this is why I'm showing it. Kevin McCarthy on the floor at the House, killing them. Here we go.
There's good news for America. It's less than a year away. It's less than a year away. I tell you, America, help is on the way. History repeats itself. And oh, it's going to repeat itself big next November. Mr. Speaker, while the Democrats' action on our economy, such as anti-work welfare programs and massive, unneeded stimulus, has left Americans worse off, it's their inaction along the southern border that has left our country less safe. You see, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't just Americans left behind in Afghanistan. It was billions of dollars of our military equipment. Mr. Speaker, do you realize that the Taliban has more Black Hawk helicopters than 2/3 of the NATO countries? More than Australia? Mr. Speaker, do you realize when Bagram shut down and 5,000 of some of the worst human beings escaped? Mr. Speaker, do you realize by the Biden administration of opening up our border, more than 160 countries of people have come across that border? Mr. Speaker, they don't have to wear a mask or be fined. They don't even have to be tested. The government actually pays them for a trip somewhere in America. Mr. Speaker, I'll wait till we're in order. In action on the southern border. Mr. Speaker, almost every single Republican on this side of the aisle has been to visit the border, almost more than once. Mr. Speaker, I heard the president, who's been in office more than 40 years, say he drove by El Paso one time. But Mr. Speaker, when we went to the border earlier this year, after one party rule in Washington that changed by executive order, I can wait, Mr. Speaker. They can finish their conversation. When we traveled to the border in February, we watched something we've never seen before. We sat and we interviewed a new facility that just was built, and it's built in the capacity that it would never be filled. It hit the record that day. And we interviewed the families and asked how long they've been on the road. They said ever since President Biden told us to come. Ever since President Biden told us to come. As we sat with those brave men and women of our border protection, we watched what they had to do, the job they were doing day in and day out, the conditions. When COVID was rampant and nobody being tested. And we went up along the line against the wall. This is important, Mr. Speaker. I think people should listen. And I'll show you the point why. As we talked to the border agents, they told us they've seen something they've never seen before, where people would rush the wall. So everybody would go there, then they'd come the other way of the cartel, bringing fentanyl across. They said they'd never seen anything like it. And I asked them, I listened to the vice president, and I sat and talked to the border agents. They told me of the border cities that had to close their schools because the cartels coming through and shooting. Of the ranchers who are having their houses burned or their grandchildren kidnapped. Then they said something so shocking, I had to ask them twice. You see, I heard the vice president say, this is just Central America problem. I said, is that really what's happening? No, they told me people were coming from 160 countries. They said they just caught people on the terrorist watch list. I came down. We did a press conference. In the press conference, I mentioned that we had caught people on the terrorist watch list from Yemen. You remember the USS Cole? The American Navy ship that was bombed? Or maybe maybe you need to refresh the memory of real recently. You know a U.S. embassy that was overtaken? No, I'm not talking back in Iran in 79. I'm talking about the comparison to today. As that I said that to the American public. I respect all of you. You come here because you want to legislate. I expect you would be shocked too. That you'd probably call me up. What can we do? You want to protect your constituents? I know you do. But Mr. Speaker, there was a member of the Democratic Party on the Intel Committee, tweeted, said I was lying. Said he gets the same intel as I do because I'm on the Gang of Eight. Interesting, when I put the facts out, I don't know, maybe the mail's slow. I've never once heard him apologize. Or worse yet, I've never once heard him say, how can we stop it? How can we stop it? I didn't even see an amendment added to this bill. Think about that for one moment for the American public. You are spending more money than we spent to end World War II. You're hiring 87,000 IRS agents. Not one Border Patrol agent. Not one new dollar. You're providing money for amnesty. You're providing money, $450,000 for people who came here illegally. And you're taking it from American hardworking taxpayers. But you do nothing to stop those on the terrorist watch list from coming across this border. Nothing. There has been nearly 1.7 illegal border encounters at the southern border since President Joe Biden became president. And our border czar, Vice President Kamala Harris, still has no plan to support our border patrol. Now let's put this in perspective. There has been more illegal border crossing between the months of February and October under Joe Biden than in 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined. So when somebody asks me, what does it mean if you have one-party rule for 1 year? You get more illegal crossings simply from February to October than you did in 2018, 2019, and 2020, all combined. What do you think's going to happen after the billions of dollars you spend in this bill providing amnesty? That number will look small to you. But I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, some people say, let's wait and see what the CBO says. So when the CBO comes back and tells you, you got millions more, it's okay, we'll still vote. Let that sink in. What's the Biden administration reaction? They're now considering paying illegal immigrants $450,000 per family. An action that President Biden admits would incentivize more people to come over illegally. Mr. Speaker, when we tell our children's children about this night, we'll tell them that's where their future went. When they ask us why do they pay such high taxes, we'll remind them about this night. Because we built up our bureaucracy. Speaker, you're actually celebrating this bill. You're actually celebrating this bill. That's more than some of the 9/11 victims received. Can you think about that? How do you explain, Mr. Speaker, as my friend Steny Hoyer said so proudly, mentioned today for our children's children, how do we explain that those that were killed on that fateful day of 9/11 received less than those who came across illegally? Mr. Speaker, I've got to apologize to you. I think I'm upsetting people on the other side of the aisle when I tell them what's in the bill. They just yelled at me that they're leaving. I apologize. Mr. Speaker, nobody on this side of the aisle wrote this bill. I thought that was going to be different, Mr. Speaker, because I took President Biden at his word. I took him at his word when he said he was going to get COVID under control. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, more Americans have died this year than last year under COVID. Mr. Speaker, the $450,000, that's more than some of the 9/11 victims received. It's more than the next of kin receives in insurance of those 13 Gold Star families that got killed by a suicide bomber who was in the prison of Bagram. Mr. Speaker, I watched in disbelief as President Biden said he'd do nothing different. I watched in disbelief, Mr. Speaker, when he had a press conference. And he told Americans it was safe to come to the airport. In less than 30 minutes, you were on that conference call too, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State, Joint Chiefs said no, it wasn't safe to come to the airport. Mr. Speaker, there are many people that have served this nation, served in the armed services, and on both sides of this aisle. I have never watched members work so hard to get the American hostages out of Afghanistan to only be shut down by our own State Department. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you of a personal story. Mr. Speaker, I picked up the phone one morning when this first started, and I called the regular number to the White House. And I said, I'd like to talk to the president about what's happening in Afghanistan. White House recently called, wanted to know if it was really me. To the president's credit, he called me back. I said, Mr. President, I know you're trying to hold this deadline for the Taliban, but what about our allies? What about those from the UK and France who fought side by side, not because their country was attacked, but because we were attacked? He told me he wasn't going to budge. I said, Mr. President, there are thousands of Americans that are held there that can't get out. He said, Kevin, no, the number is much smaller. I said, Mr. President, what is the number then? Oh, it's just small. I've watched the president look America in the eye and tell us he would not leave till every American's out. What do you say to those Americans that are still stuck there? The last time we felt like this, Jimmy Carter was president. Mr. Speaker, what does it say to those Gold Star families? Mr. Speaker, I had one in my office. A father who had his daughter, who wasn't even supposed to be there but volunteered. He was an electrician. Just days before, you see photos of her holding a young child. She told her sister, I'm going out in front of the wall because you can't believe it. Someone needs to be there for them. She wasn't supposed to be out in front of that wall. When that suicide bomber that was locked up in Bagram, that never should have got out, that we never should have shut down, killed 13 of the finest Americans we know. You know what this bill does? Nothing for them. It gives more money to an illegal person who crossed this border. I'm sorry. Americans expect more. Our priorities should be different. These people risk their life every day for us. Just let that sink in to your children's children. One party rule for 1 year has brought us inflation we haven't seen in 31 years. Gas prices the highest it's been since the last time President Biden was down at the White House. A Thanksgiving that's going to cost you more than any time in your life. A border where 1.7 million encounters. A border between February and October that more people have crossed than 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined. And Mr. Speaker, the closest the president has ever been to the border in 42 years is to drive through El Paso. Mr. Speaker, a vice president who is the czar of the border. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. This is the safety of this nation. What do you think's going to happen to that border when you provide $1 billion in amnesty? What do you think's going to happen when you reward people with $450,000? Where do you get the money? From the hardworking taxpayers of America who have less to give. But you know what? They're going to have to give more because you're hiring 87,000 IRS agents to come after them. 1.2 million more audits. And half of all those 1.2 are going after Americans who make $75,000 or less. That's what you based this entire bill on. That's what you waited for the CBO to tell you. How much money can we get from them? How is that possible? The payments for illegal immigrants is just the latest data point in a much larger trend of failures on this border. Cheered on by left-wing activists, President Biden and Vice President Harris have presided over the greatest series of border security blunders in American history. Mr. Speaker, if 160 different countries have had people come across that border illegally, if we have caught people on the terrorist watch list, if a suicide bomber got out of Bagram and in 1 week killed 13 American soldiers, do you think they know how to get into America? Do you think they know where to go? Maybe they have to go at night. They got a better chance now because they've got night goggles that we had. They got Black Hawk helicopters. They have more Black Hawk helicopters, the Taliban, than 2/3 of our NATO countries. They have more than Australia. And that phone call with the president, you know what he told me? Oh, Kevin, we're going to have a lot of leverage with the Taliban because they're going to need help running their country. Why don't you tell that to the hundreds of Americans that are still there trying to get out? And every time there's a member on this side of the aisle that goes upon themselves because they care about their constituents and they try to get that American out, the State Department attacks them. You try to criticize them, they risk their own life. Mr. Speaker, even in our own hearings, I respect greatly anyone who served in uniform, and you have some tremendous members on the other side of the aisle that have. And I watched them question the Secretary of State and still not get an answer. Mr. Speaker, to that member on your side of the aisle that sits on Intel, that said I wasn't telling the truth, that we're catching people on the terrorist watch list, that has done nothing about it since. I wonder if he should serve on Intel next term. Because America needs to be protected. For anyone who thinks they're not a border city, just look up how many deaths you have in fentanyl. And let me tell you where fentanyl comes from. It comes across that border, but it comes from China. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you another story. I have a friend who serves in the Senate. Right before COVID, he was on a Codell with other senators. And he was sitting and having a communication, maybe you've experienced this as well, with a military general in the Chinese Communist Army. You know what that general said to him? America, you're weak. You're weak, America. You're weak because you believe in God and you take fentanyl. Fentanyl has increased 300%. Only because the border is not secure. There is no city in America that is safe. This is deadly. They've handed the border over to the cartels, unleashing these monsters onto our people. And they compromised our national security. Answer me this question, Mr. Speaker. If somebody's on the terrorist watch list, and Mr. Speaker, they entered our state of California. They haven't entered one. They weren't together. They came on different days. And you know right now, if you're a member of Congress and you ask them how many more you got, they don't want to tell you. Just as they don't want to give us a number of how many Americans are still stuck there. They're hoping if we don't pay attention anymore, we'll forget. I promise you this, we will not forget. And we will not stop. Here is what the National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd told us, and I quote, "This administration says it's just Central American countries. But in just 1 week in Yuma, Arizona sector, we've seen people illegally enter from countries like Egypt, Russia, Armenia, Georgia, Haiti, Portugal, and Uzbekistan. There's no better time for them to come into our country than now." I didn't think Egypt or Russia was in Central America. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to offer this invitation. We got Thanksgiving coming. We're both from California. Why don't we invite the Vice President to come down to the border with you and I both, and let's take a tour. And while we're there, let's go to the Port of LA and Long Beach and talk about the supply chain. Let them see that these ships that are waiting and coming in, when they unload, they go back empty to pick up more from China. They don't load American products. Now, it may take a little while to get from the border of San Diego up to Long Beach, so we may have to stop to get gas. I'll split it with you because I know it's not cheap. But I'm willing to make that offer. These patrol members along the border, they bear the brunt of dangerous policies. While the Democrats act like there's nothing going on, Texas Mayor Don McLaughlin told us, Mr. Speaker, just a few months ago, nearby cities are expected to see an inflow of migrants much larger than the size of the towns themselves. He said, and I quote, "We're not equipped in our area to handle this. Our resources are strapped as it is because of the pandemic." The mayor said his own town will try to quarantine COVID positive migrants in hotels. But when they come back to check on them or bring them food, some of the migrants are gone. You know, that's just not here. You know, when we departed Afghanistan, a lot of people got on that were never searched or gone through any process. We put them on military bases in America. Some just depart. Some people have already been arrested for crimes they created. When we heard from our constituents that were stuck in Afghanistan, who said they went to the airport because they watched the president tell them, and the Taliban grabbed their papers, tear them up, and shoot at them. Or they're hiding in the halfway houses. And the State Department denying, just letting them get across the border so they can get out. Aside from the health risks, these circumstances create physical risks for innocent bystanders. There are not enough officers or agents to handle the intake and regular patrol. So the issues are spilling onto the streets. Now, I'm sure in your committees, Mr. Speaker, as you went through this bill, as you knew you were going to spend more than at any time in American history, because the Chief of Staff to the White House, and many times, Mr. Speaker, people refer to him as the Prime Minister, he said this is twice as big in real dollars as the New Deal. You must have thought somewhere when you saw these statistics, it's okay, we've got so much money, let's put some and help those border agents. I'm sure somebody raised that issue, did they not? It must have been voted down because it's not in the bill. But whoever raised their hand and said, let's spend $1 billion to give people amnesty, that made it in. The only thing I question, Mr. Speaker, why did you stop there? Because there's going to be billions more coming. You were able to do in one-party rule in 1 year, just between February and October, more than everybody's been able to do in the 18, 19, and 20 combined. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if that's what you talk about, building bigger bureaucracies, but this bill does it. Mayor McLaughlin said they have about 2 to 3 car chases a week back in 2019. Then none for a few weeks. Now it's every single day. Roughly 10 to 12 high-speed car chases per week. He says, and I quote, it's escalating. We've had houses broken into. We had to put our schools on lockdown because they're armed out in town near these schools. When that happens, then we have to pull all the officers out on manhunts. How would you like to represent a city that every single day, roughly 10 to 12 high-speed car chases? I remember on the news when there was one, the whole nation would watch. They don't even put them on because they're every day. But where are they running by? And it's not a car chase, just a cop chasing them. It's a cartel with weaponry. They're going by schools. In America, in American schools, they have to shut down because you opened the border. You do nothing to protect it in this bill. You only incentivize more people to come. Did you put any money in here for car chases? Did you put any money in here for the schools? I hope you put money in here for drug treatment. Because, Mr. Speaker, there's sure a lot of fentanyl coming across that border. He told us recently that just last spring, they had to put schools on lockdown 48 times. Think about that. Your child goes to a school, just in spring, 48 times they're on lockdown. You think your child feels safe? You think your child's learning? What do you think those parents are going to think when they hear about this bill? I don't think they could just leave the chambers. I think they'll probably want to come to a school board meeting. Maybe the FBI will investigate them for terrorism because they care about their children's safety. One-party rule in 1 year has brought America to this. Our children's education and lives are being interrupted nearly 50 times in just a few months. That's in America. When personnel and resources are pulled from one area to another along our border community, He leaves families like Russell Johnson's in danger. You see, Russell lives on a ranch with his family in New Mexico, just miles from the border. I'm proud of my family. My family immigrated from Ireland and Italy. They worked on a railroad, and they became a cattle ranch. It was a tough life. My grandfather got married, lived with his brother on the ranch, but the ranch didn't make enough to pay for both. So he went back to working on the railroad. To make money as a rancher, they never had to worry about a cartel. They just had to worry if it rained enough or if the cattle price was high enough. Russell Johnson, it's remote, and it gets little service where he lives, making it a prime place to illegally enter the country. This is what Russell told us. With the way things are right now, we don't let our kids play outside by themselves. They can't play outside by themselves. This isn't Chicago. This is on a cattle ranch. There's no telling who they might encounter while they're out there. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to invite Russell Johnson to come to D.C. And I want to invite anybody on the other side of the aisle that votes for this bill. And I would ask you to take this question. I would ask that you point out in this bill, where does it protect his children? As an American, I don't think he'll argue that you're going to cost them more. You see, the interesting thing is, I'm okay paying taxes if they go to something. Richie Neal says it's going to build a bigger bureaucracy. Not along the border, it's not. It's tearing down walls. Schools are closing. You know, for the first time in the country, Mr. Speaker, this generation doesn't believe they'll be better off than the generation before them. And this bill almost guarantees it. They're guaranteed they're going to have to pay more and get less. I'll be sure and let you all know of that date. You're celebrating the bill. Celebrate with Russell and tell him where he's better off. Just think for a moment that in America, children can't play outside on their own property for fear of their safety from cartels and traffickers. I'm not talking about the cities where you defunded the police. I'm talking about remote cattle ranches. In a place I think every American dreams they could retire one day, on a ranch. Build back. We're going all the way back to the Westerns, I guess. People have to fend for themselves. I can't believe that's America. I don't accept it. I know we're better than that. I know some of you are mad at me, think I spoke too long. But I've had enough. America has had enough. Not only do communities at the border deserve protection, the selfless men and women of our Border Patrol deserve more support to do their jobs. I don't know if you've been down to tour with them. If any of you are going, you want to make it bipartisan, I'll go. I know a lot of people on this side of the aisle will go with. Because we think it's an American problem, that we want to solve it together. But when someone comes across the border and you have the children, it's interesting, Mr. Speaker, when it became one party with 1 year, you changed the definition. They're no longer cages. Still the same place. But it's the border agents who have to go off the border and inside to care for them. So the border's less secure. And now you're providing more money for them to come, less agents there. It's just a spiraling effect. You know, between inflation, gas prices, the border, crime, there's a common denominator. One party rule in Washington for 1 year. U.S. Border Patrol members from the Southwest Division of the border alone saved 4,920 lives in 2019. 5,071 lives in FY20. 12,833 lives in 21. And 836 in 22 so far. Why don't we pass a bill to honor our Border Patrol agents? Why don't we bring them here to Washington? Better yet, why don't we go to them? It's our job to secure the border. You're spending trillions of dollars. You know what you're spending money on? Not to build the wall. You're taking taxpayer money on material they already have there and paying them not to build it. So Russell Johnson, children can't play. That's what you're taking taxpayers' money for. That's why you're hiring more IRS agents to audit more Americans to get more out of them, because you don't trust that they're honest. There's not a day that doesn't go by, just this week, of a 5-year-old child all by himself. You know, one of the trips down the border, I was talking to this Border Patrol agent, and I was asking her about her job. You could tell the stress that she has felt. To work under these conditions, the threat of the cartel, the crime coming across, the families, the children. And she told a story of 3 young children she saw out in the distance. The oldest was 5, the next was 3, and the other was 11 months. I said, where was the parent? There was no parent. Well, what crowd was she with? No, they were all alone. If she had not found them, they would not have lived. So let this sink in. You're encouraging more of them to come. People don't make it all the time. People are raped. Human trafficking happens because they don't have the money to pay the cartel. Then when they come to America, they have to work to keep paying them. You're incentivizing that. And while you incentivize that, you make Americans unsafe. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, it's something that the just administration does in the cabinet or everywhere when they're asked a question. I know what the Secretary of Energy did when she asked about how to lower prices. She just laughed. But I remember, Mr. Speaker, when Vice President Kamala Harris was asked about the border. She has a very definite laugh. You know what her answer was? Well, I haven't been to Europe either. Well, she could go to Europe because people from Europe are coming across that border too. She'd go to Russia, Egypt, Yemen. She'd go around the world. Now, speaking of safety and security, it's hardworking Americans being ignored by Democrat politicians.
Yeah, baby. Woo! You talk about fire. That was fire. That was fire. That's how it's supposed to feel when you listening to the fire. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring Angry Snowman into the mix, man. And hey, look, I just want you to put your thoughts in the chat, man. Put your thoughts in the chat. Let me know what you guys think and what you guys thought about what was said. Hey, Snowman, what's up? Yeah, I can hear you, bro.
Right on. Oh, you gotta mute yourself, don't you? Otherwise it echoes. Yeah, I can't hear you now. How's it sound out there in the chat? Well, look, man, I'll be like I was talking to you in the back. You know, part of me, it warms your heart to the core when you hear someone say the things that he was saying. You know, bringing awareness and acknowledgement to all the issues that are going on in this country that we've all been seeing, that we've all been talking about, that we've all been told to stay silent about, and people pretending like it's not going on. And it's nice to see things brought to light, that way you don't feel like you're going crazy, like you're losing your mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wish, like I said, that when we hear speeches like this, because yes, that was probably one of the best speeches, like you said, that I've heard. He used his words very, very well, but we've heard speeches of this type before. It wasn't that long ago that who was it, that guy from Utah or Iowa or whatever, old, well, he was a bald-headed dude.
Oh, it's about bald-headed black dude.
No, white dude.
White dude.
Bald-headed white dude. It was during the lockdowns. He was talking about people not having their rights taken away, and when are you going to let people have their rights back? And he went in hard about that. When is there going to be follow through? When are these people going to actually start doing what is being asked of them? Why is, one of the major parts of the First Amendment being ignored? The right to redress grievances with your government. They're not listening to us. That's what J6 was. They want to try and say it was an infection of the nation. But really what that was the nation wanting to have their grievances addressed with their government, and the government didn't want to hear it.
That's a fact.
I myself personally, for more than 2 decades now, have been writing my congressmen, my senators, been writing my governors, as they change out, writing my personal, state legislature, to no avail, getting absolutely nothing in return. Lucky if you get a response by their social media or their basically the person that they hire to take care of all the incoming traffic from people, because the governor or none of these officials actually ever respond personally back to you. And then it's just some cookie cutter copy and paste email that's sent back to you. How long do we have to sit and scream at the top of our lungs? We tried being nice about it. We tried talking politely without raising our voice. Then we tried raising our voice. How long is this going to have to go where our voice is going unheard? Because these people are acting as if they are the ones in charge. That is not how this is set up. They're supposed to be acting on behalf of the people. The people are the ones in charge, and they're nothing more than a representation of the people that put them there. How is it that they're representing us if they're not even listening to us? Everybody in this country, even legal immigrants who have come here through the proper ports of entry, done it the right way, is as much of a hassle as it was, even they have a problem with open borders. Even they do.
Yeah, they don't like it at all. I 100% agree. They definitely don't feel that. They don't respect that at all.
There's some of the ones that have a problem with it. The biggest problem with it, because they went through the proper, routes to get here. They put in the work to get here, and then somebody's just going to come and just jump the border, and now these officials are allowing them to do it. Our vice president, who's supposed to be guarding the border, taking care of that issue,
She's a joke, man.
she doesn't even know what the word border means. She thinks you're talking about go to the border. She thinks thinking you're talking about Taco Bell. You know,
Yeah, she's that dumb though. She's literally that dumb. She might actually think, hey, let's go to the border. Oh yeah, I like Taco Bell. Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'm not talking about Taco Bell, dumb. Oh well,
why is it that every other nation, every other first world nation, every other even second world nation, like Venezuela or Guatemala, or because they can't really be considered first world, they're more like second world nations. They're somewhat established, but not to the degree that we are. First world nations are empires. But why is it that every first, second, and some of these even third world nations all have borders? All. And they protect their borders. There ain't anywhere else on the face of the planet that we as American citizens, or anyone else for that matter, can go and just walk across the border and think that they're going to become a member of that society without letting them know first, and think that nothing's going to happen to them.
Well, there was an incident in Poland, the president of Poland, and you got to pay attention to exactly what the president of Poland said, because he was talking the same language that we're talking now, and NATO branded him as a white nationalist because he refused to open his borders. He refused it. He sent them people packing. He sent down the military, and they checked that border, and it was like, he's a white supremacist. He's Polish. Oh, he's a terrorist. He's a white nationalist. No, he's a president, and we understand. It's like what are you supposed to do? Not protect your border? Not protect your citizens as a leader? That's why you got to respect Ron DeSantis, because Ron DeSantis, he gonna go to war with these people to the end. Them illegal immigrants are not coming to Florida, man. They're gonna get shipped off, and if they try to get real violent down there, he gonna put an end to it. And again, this really just tells you who they are. It's like, let's not make any mistakes about it, America. We are being controlled by a communist leader. We have a dictator in the White House, and it's not a game. I'm not saying it because I don't like Joe Biden. I'm telling you, look at the blueprints. If anybody's ever read any of the communist material, you will understand that open borders is how they keep power. It's flat out the truth, man. It's not I'm making it up. I'm not carrying water for the Russians or carrying water for Trump. It's the truth.
Open borders, then not making you have to provide any kind of voter identification.
No, you're racist if you do that. Don't ask.
But what I'm saying, that's part of the communist agenda right there. The whole alleviating voter identification, having to prove that you're a member of, or that you're actually a citizen of that land. Getting rid of that stuff. They'll actually make it to where the criminals don't have to be ID'd, but the citizens have to have have to have their papers, or they go to prison. I mean, dude, if you look at what's going on in America right now, it's so similar to what was going on in Germany. And right before they decided to start taking all the Jews off to the concentration camps, the way things are starting to run is so similar. And look, dude, I'm here to tell you, those 87,000 IRS agents.
Oh yeah,
that are going to be that have already been given money for military style weapons. All right. Why does the IRS, for one, need military style weapons? And then they're working in tandem with the ATF, Homeland Security, and the CIA. And
yeah.
Okay, so does that not sound an awful lot like, the Nazi SS is about ready to start patrolling our streets?
And they're walking around with M4s. They don't have no Play-Doh no Play-Doh guns, no Mario Brother guns. They walk around with M4s. Let's again, just a quick, channel ID. This is the Real Greg Kelly Show. I have the Angry Snowman with me. And we're really just talking about how the communists and this open border situation is really one of their major plays that they use out of the playbook. Anybody wants to come up with it, we're not going to be up here long. We got Fetty. He get ready to go live. I definitely want to get out of his way.
He's got a good discussion he's going to be having tonight too, man. When I saw that little short he did describing, I was like, ooh, that's going to be a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, Snowman, why I got you here. In relationship to Afghanistan and Americans being left behind, I mean, to me, that's just one of the most despicable acts of treason I've ever seen in my life. Is there anything that you think there's anything that the American people can do to light a fire under these people's behinds to try and get our citizens back to this country?
Wow. That's a pretty loaded question there, man. Dude, we couldn't do any. Just remember, this. Like I told you, this reminds me of Benghazi all over again. It really does. And if we couldn't do anything to save and help the people that were part of the whole Benghazi incident, then I really don't think that we're going to be able to help these people that are over there. I mean, think about this for a second. Like you said, we are more worried about some girl over in Russia right now who broke the law with some drugs that she knew she shouldn't have had, and we're trying to get her back, but nobody gives a crap about our soldiers that they left behind. They don't care about our soldiers, and they don't care about the fact that they left behind taxpayers' property. That's not the government's property. That's our property. We pay for that. You know what America needs to do? It'd be so wonderful if America would actually come together and do it. If they went to work and looked at their boss and said, I need a new W-4 paper, and went on there and checked exempt on that box. Or if they're worried about getting in trouble through the law, everybody in America start taking their federal taxes and putting it in escrow. Because you're technically paying your taxes, they just ain't going to get it until they start doing what we say.
The Constitution is written as such that all of the power that our government has, and I want America to listen to this, because if we don't recognize that it is literally us that possesses the power, we're going to sit back on our behinds and we're going to let them take control. The Constitution states that all of the power. Matter of fact, I got it right here. I'm gonna give it to you verbatim. I have it. I keep the Constitution on my desk.
Hey, dude, how beat up is your pocket Constitution?
I just got a new one from the John Birch Society.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Dude, mine's so beat up and taped up and stuff. I got my old Hillsdale College one.
Oh, Hillsdale is, yeah, man. I listen. I frequent with those guys a lot because
I watch a lot of they put out a lot of really good, informative civic information. I mean, if you want to learn civics, go to Hillsdale College on YouTube, man.
Yes. All right, here we go. I'm going to read. This is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving just powers from the consent of the governed.
Yes.
From the consent of the governed. We have the power. That's why we cannot afford to be silent. That's why we cannot afford to go to those polls. But I'll tell you this. We already know, we've already seen firsthand what happens with the poll. You have to be vocal. You have to speak up. We cannot allow ourselves to be silenced. We cannot allow fear to determine what we will and will not say and do. As Americans, there's a spirit in our hearts. There's a spirit that dwells within us, the spirit of the Almighty, that will resist evil at all cost. And that's just what we're faced with, man. And I just want to again shout out everybody in the chat, all these beautiful Americans. Listen, if you don't do anything else, stay true to yourself, stay true to the code. And the code is the Constitution. All right. I'm using some gang lingo because really the truth of the matter is we are one gang of people. We ain't worried about what color your skin is. That's a lie. Okay. We don't care. Do you care, Snowman? I don't care. I just I don't give a damn.
I don't give two shits what color someone's skin is, dude. You know what I care about? Whether or not we can have a conversation with each other. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
You know what? Even if we disagree about it, can we at least have the conversation?
Can we talk about it? That's what it's about. Can we talk about it sensibly and either agree to disagree or agree? You know what I mean?
That's the biggest problem today, man. And I think social media was done. It was put in place on purpose so people would forget how to communicate and how to engage and how to have that social interaction for real in real life. I think that what you see happening with the kids was intended, and it was intended to be done that way through social media. Social media, and they call it social media. That's ironic, seeing as how America is so antisocial because of social media.
Yeah, you put social media on top of COVID restrictions, and what you've got is a recipe for segregation. It's part of their agenda to segregate us and divide us.
And look, the thing is a lot of folks, unless they're in these in some of these areas on YouTube where it is like pro-black, pro-white, this, that, and the other, and actually listen to some of these discussions going on, there's a lot of people that are, agreeing now. There's a lot, dude. You know how many pro-blacks, like pro-black communities on YouTube, the B1 sector on YouTube are talking about wanting segregation?
Yeah.
That is insane. It wasn't that long ago that their freaking uncle was marching the streets to end segregation.
Yeah, they've lost all reality. I think they've lost it all. Their minds are gone. I know plenty of pro-blacks. I've been recruited by pro-black movements, and they disdain, they hate the fact. I mean, they are appalled at the fact that most of my brothers are white brothers. And what they don't understand is they white to them. I told them, no, they're white brothers to you. They just brothers to me. And what bands us together is this Constitution. It's the blood in our veins. It's the creator that made us. And the fact that we just ain't going down because some people want to call us racist. Some people want to call us terrorists. Like, we can't take the knee because people want to try to humiliate us and try to brand us in public as though we're some enemy of the state. No, like, we're not trying to separate the people. We're trying to unite the people. And unity is not a part of pro-black. Pro-black thinks that unity amongst blacks is the way to go. But let's just keep it 100 here. Blacks kill blacks at an alarming rate, far more of an alarming rate than white police officers kill black individuals in the streets. So we need to go ahead and scrap that. We can't even coexist as a black community because we're so concerned about who the baddest gangster is, who got the baddest dames, who got the baddest car. You ever roll up on a brother, right? You might be riding my little 1965, pickup truck, and a cat pull up on the side of me with a Beamer, and he leaned into the side like this, like he in a big deuce and a quarter, and then he'll look over there at you. Like, look at that piece of shit. Talk about the car. And then he'll speed off on you. So, in other words, egotistically, we can't coexist because we always jockeying to see who has the best possessions.
Right. That's something I never understood either, man. And what's crazy about it is then you go into the ghetto areas where some of these folks live, and they ain't jockeying like that when it comes to their home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of these communities look like third world countries, man. When you go into them, it's insane.
A lot of them do.
They're all over the country, I just, but for me, that whole idea of wanting to have segregation again, it doesn't even make sense. If you're going to sit and say you want segregation, then you've lost any argument about racism that you have, any argument at all.
Yeah, but you understand in the pro-black movement, they don't even think that black people can be racist. It's ridiculous to me.
Oh yeah, I know.
Literally believe that.
And then I've had them tell me that. Not how's that? Well, we're not in a position to of power to where we can. What are you talking about? I said, what's the population? What's the black population in America? Well, it's about 15-16%. Okay, and if you do the math, that's 15-16% of the black of every body of Congress, from the federal all the way down to the state. Everybody in Congress has that, sometimes even more, 20-25%, black and Mexican or whatever you want to label it. But you're represented by your population. You can't expect to be represented any more than what your population density is. I mean, and that's fair representation. It really is statistically.
I agree with that.
But to sit and say that you're not that nobody's in a position of power, then why are there so many $1 billion, $1 million, and $1 billion Fortune 500 black business owners in this country that won't hire your black ass?
You can't say that. Oh no, don't talk about the Fortune 500. Don't talk about the millionaire black people. Don't talk about the billionaire black community. Don't talk about it. It's taboo. It's
that's such a small subset that it don't even count.
We don't want to talk about that, but these people have big influence. And what's really sickens me is people like LeBron James, for instance. Instead of him telling Black America that, listen, I came out of poverty. The brother from Cleveland, all right? It's one of the poorest cities in America, all right? He came out of Cleveland. He came out through athletics. He did more than athletics. And instead of him empowering people with information, he wants to empower them. We're afraid to walk out of our house, and we might be shot by a black man. White cop.
That's another thing that I've always been confused about is you hear a lot of the wealthy, successful, brothers and sisters that are part of the community, the dysfunction, that want to sit, when a young brother or sister asks them, what did you do to get to where you are? Well, you'll never be able to make it. What do you mean? Why are you successful and telling these kids you'll never be able to make it?
It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. If I have no idea.
I mean, because really, dude, if you look at it, most of the young black folks that I've ever met, because they have to go through, a little bit more struggle than most of us white kids. I mean, it is reality. They have to go through a little bit more struggle just because of the dysfunction of the community that they're raised in. Yeah. There's a different level of dysfunction that they have to deal with that we don't. And that's just reality. I've accepted it. There's some shit that I was told that that your guys' mothers and stuff, and your aunties and this and your grandmas tell you that I wouldn't even believe. Dude, I wouldn't know what to say if my mom told me some shit like most of you young brothers are told by the women in your community.
Yeah, it's pretty atrocious. But on the flip side, right? When you look at it from the perspective of poverty's a choice. Right? Oh, no, poverty is not a choice. Well, no, you don't have any power over how you begin in life. Oh, well, boy, where you end up in life is all on you.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's all on you. You can't blame grandma and them not having an education, and they were, brought up in the projects and was on welfare. Like, that doesn't have to be your story.
I grew up on welfare.
I did too. Exactly.
I remember you was probably like me, had to go take them paper stamps to the store, man, and get to buy some gum to get the hard change for mom.
I remember that. And so back in the day, it was so chill, right? You could go to the local little locally owned store to buy bread and stuff, and they actually had this little notepad, like you could get credit.
Right.
So this is when candy was a penny. You go there with get 100 pieces of candy. You know what I'm saying?
Big old glass jars with the penny candy and the little brown paper sacks. Yeah, I remember that, man.
They had the dill pickles. They had the pickled pickles, eggs, and I mean, I was living back then. If you ask, that was the good old days, really.
But what I was getting at is, like we grew up the same way, and we chose not to live that path. I mean, really, in all honesty, if it's about being in poverty, anybody that's impoverished should have to have a hard time getting out of poverty. Then,
right?
Wouldn't you think if the whole argument is just about the poverty itself?
Mm-hmm.
But no, it takes being willing to get up off your butt and do what you can to get out of that.
Yeah. But see, these people are being reared psychologically to have an expectation or set an expectation for the government to lift them out of poverty. We're talking that these guys want reparations. Like, listen, man, don't nobody do anything.
Reparations for what?
That's what I'm saying. For what? Well, our ancestors. For number one, listen, the bloodline is so dimmed down and so dumbed down now and diluted now. Hey, look, you don't know where you came from.
Yeah, and how you gonna feel when you start seeing your white counterparts getting reparations checks in the mail?
And look, that's gonna be
for real, dude. Because they're the great grandson or great great grandson of somebody who was a slave.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is they exist. There are white people that are descendants of slaves now.
Yeah. And we're not gonna do that. I gotta listen, that's a discussion. We're not even gonna mess with the slavery thing, because brother, I done been all up under the slave ships. I know the DNA of the slave ship. I know who made them. And I can tell you this, all I'm gonna say on the slavery thing, because I will go all the way in and get stuck. We got to get out of here.
Dude, I can too, because I take a lot of issues with the information we've been told about the whole slave trade.
I'm gonna say it this way: don't nobody want to talk about the fact that the Europeans were slaves before the Africans. Nobody wants to talk about that. That shit is true. Okay, right. It's true, man.
No, they were indentured servants. Okay.
Oh, whatever.
Okay.
Man. They were slaves. Okay. My great grandmother was a slave, and she's from Ireland. Right. So we're not gonna do that today. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna do it though. It's just can't be there because we got to get out of here. Fetty, I'm sorry. I know we went over 9 o'clock. It's 9:33. Bam. First of all, thank you for being here, Snowman.
Absolutely.
In the chat. Thanks for being here, man. But I hope y'all share this video. This video was epic. And again, all I want people to do is decide for yourself.
Yeah, don't let people tell you what to think. Don't let people make your mind up for you. Actually decide for yourself. Listen to what's being presented and make a decision.
Yep. Decide for yourself. We're going to get out of here, y'all. We're going to get out of here. RGKS Studios, man. This is where it all happens. Don't forget to check us out tomorrow, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We're going down the road of Fascism in America Part 2. We're going to do it. Make sure y'all stop by, show some love, like, share, subscribe. Go over. If you haven't subscribed.
Are we going to make fun of Anquifa tomorrow?
Oh, God, yes. Hey, I put something out there about them, and as soon as I put the video up, YouTube shut it down. I was like, no, sir, you would not put that out there. Yeah, I'm loaded on them people, man, because I ain't going to say that right now.
We'll wait till tomorrow.
We're going to wait till tomorrow. But y'all know I'm going to close with my favorite clip of all time. We love you. This right here is my clip. Snowman, we're going to chop it up. You got my number. I got yours. I'm going to send you that information as soon as I get off of here, okay?
Yes.
All right, you guys. We out of here, man. Here's my favorite clip. We're going to close with OG Alex. Come on. Oh, come on. It's not working. Are you serious?
Right? What do you mean, like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the clones?
Your allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
What do you mean, like what Jeffrey Epstein did?
Dude, when I heard that the first time, that was the funniest shit ever, dude.
I love it. We out of here, y'all.
Yep, I'll see you.